And the one thing I've always admired about them is the fact that they played with such passion. And I know that's what Tubby's about. And I don't see this club playing with the emotion and the passion of past Kentucky teams. You could be the least talented team in America, but that doesn't mean you don't come out and play with an unbelievable hunger.
Over the next several days, some of the great home courts in America, and there aren't many that can rival historic Allen Fieldhouse here in Lawrence. Dan Shulman, Dick Vitale, glad to be with you. Deafening noise in this building right now. Kentucky, Kansas still trying to find themselves, but when you think to tradition, they don't have to take a backseat to anybody in America.
Hey, Dan, you get goosebumps when you're a basketball lover, and you think about Kentucky, you think about certainly Adolph Rupp. It goes down to the right, certainly of Mr. Pitino and now Tubby Smith. 7 national championship banners fly high. You think about all the great players, an amazing tradition, but they need that statement victory this year on the road, and Kansas would be a great place to get it.
Well, consistency certainly a term that Tubby Smith would like to be able to apply to both Rondo and his basketball team. In an attempt to bring that about, Dan, he instituted 6:30 a.m. practices, something he doesn't employ typically until February.
Well, I'll tell you one thing. Rondo's a kid that likes to have the basketball in his hands. They want him to distribute a little bit more. But when your team has your point guard who leads you in scoring, rebounding, and assists, that is trouble, especially when your point guard has to be the best rebounder. Anonymous with both programs. Some of the most passionate fans in all of college basketball. I mean, blue is running wild all over this arena today, and they are out. It may be 11 in the morning here, 12 Eastern time, but these people have been juiced up like you can't believe, ready for this.
Kentucky has more wins than any program in the history of college basketball. Kansas is 3rd, North Carolina number 2, Kentucky in visiting blue, Kansas in home white to control the opening tip. Look at this. Look at this struggle. Look at this struggle just to make a handoff.
Everybody's standing around taking pictures. There's not much movement, and that's one of the problems. See, Rondo has the ball, and everybody wants to watch him do his thing.
Shot clock at 1. They don't get it off. Crossover by Rush, missed the long jumper, and Jeff Hawkins with a rebound.
Kentucky not quick to the basket, though.
Kansas with a very active group on the floor right now. Rush banks it in. He's having some kind of day.
Kentucky's got to step it up. Somebody's got to set the tone, get a little bit aggressive out there. They don't seem to be aggressive. Just much more aggressive. Kansas is certainly the aggressor this afternoon.
Sims will take a 3. Kentucky doing nothing but shooting 3-pointers, and none of them are falling right now.
Getting no offensive execution. And you know how hard they work on their different sets.
Kentucky is 0 for 6 from 3-point range.
This is the worst execution I have seen in watching Tubby Smith's basketball team in terms of executing half court in the last 5 years. I mean, really very stagnant, no ball movement, no player movement. And really, when you look on the floor, the players don't seem to have that tremendous intensity and emotion.
Nobody boxing out. Giles went right by a lean down an open lane. Now for Rush. Morris returns Tuesday. He can't help him today, and they need some help today.
I'll tell you one thing. There's a bounce in the step of the Jayhawks. Kentucky's been very flat.
Look at these tough shots.
Tough shots.
One-on-one, and now Bradley gets all tangled up with Hawkins.
That's the basketball.
Boy, they are.
Everybody's standing around. Look at this right now. Everybody's standing watching, and a guy pounding the ball in the deck. Everybody's standing. Everybody's standing. It's easy to guard people when there's no movement.
Kansas in the first half. Tubby Smith cannot be happy. The worst half they have had this year. They're down 22 at the break.
Kentucky bottom 4 in the SEC in virtually every offensive category, and you're certainly seeing why as Kansas handing it to them in the first half in Lawrence. 6 first-half field goals for Kentucky. That's the same total that Brandon Rush has all by his lonesome for Kansas, and that goes a long way towards explaining a 22-point Jayhawks lead.
And they've been playing in a fog, Kentucky.
Yeah, right.
Absolutely in a fog in that first half. I have never seen Kentucky so really without any passion, any intensity and emotion. They have not done a good job offensively, no movement, and really zero in the post.
There for Christian Moody, and
Tubby wants a timeout. He's furious.
A timeout.
Tubby's furious. He knows right now they're being humiliated. being embarrassed. And that's too much pride in that Kentucky program to let people embarrass you.
They're beating them at both ends of the floor. Brandon Rushnick is doing whatever he wants to in this game.
Look at him trailing. Everybody's trailing. Nobody's getting down the court to stop the basketball. Offensive arsenal. They got some guys making threes. I don't even hear today because today is long gone. I'm talking down the road.
This one was long gone early here today.
Yes, sir.
Kentucky had 8 points about 13 minutes into the game. Getting some time here at the end of the game for a dejected Tubby Smith. It has been an ugly afternoon for Kentucky. Foul from behind by Kleinman.
It's been that way from the outset.
Yep.
Right out of the gate.
The most lopsided loss for Tubby in his Kentucky career. Kansas all over the Wildcats from the outset today. A signature win for the Kansas program, beating Kentucky 73-46.
Well, 16 years ago got blown out here. 16 years later, the same result. Kentucky just dominated.
Guys, I got to ask you, your reaction. I mean, Kentucky going into Kansas and just getting annihilated.
You know, Dave, this time of year we talk about aberrations. You know, like UConn going in and being beaten by Marquette on the road. Steve Novak gets hot. That's an aberration as a loss. But I think the Louisville win at home is the aberration for Kentucky. The real Kentucky is what you saw here, what you saw against Indiana, what you saw at home against a very young North Carolina team playing their first road game. This is not a good basketball team. They don't make good decisions, and I totally agree with Coach Vitale that if Patrick Sparks isn't hitting three-point shots, he has no value to this team whatsoever. I think you might want to cycle the lineup.
Well, you begin to realize with Kentucky that there's some of those close calls, you know, your Iona games, your Central Florida games, the Ohio game, as good as Ohio is a mid-major, those weren't aberrations either, Doug. This is a team that's struggling.
But if people think they're going to be a dominant team, it's just not that kind of Kentucky team.
Again, they've beaten Louisville, they've beaten West Virginia, but when they struggle badly.